Hello.
Hello.
Where am I? Wait.
Where are you?
How
There
are
you go.
you?
How are you?
Very well. And you? I was just checking what is the time at your area? It's 7 o'clock, nice and early. So here is a cup
Yes.
of
Cheers. Cheers. What time is it for you? Is it in the, it's evening though.
It's three in the afternoon.
Oh, 3 in the afternoon. Okay. Oh, that's not that bad.
No, it's perfect.
That's not that bad. And then your post today, the one that just before I came on, like it's okay to leave. I was like, man, oh my gosh. It just it hits it lands perfectly with me, just in so many different ways. But it was just after leaving retail as a retail executive and kind of moving into what I'm doing, it was just perfect timing. I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's a really good, way to set the tone for just meeting you. How are you?
Very well, very well. Well, I'm doing similarly to you. I just left my job 6 months ago.
Oh,
After 19 years in the hotel industry.
okay.
Building my little company. It's been going on for 3 years now. But I always had, up until 1st of January, I had a full-time job. And on the side, I was coaching, advising companies and HR, and, here and there, not taking it too seriously. And then I said, I didn't want to leave full-time employment, but I wanted to leave the hotel industry. I'm like,
Right.
after 19 years, you guys, I love you, but you can't give me anything that I'm like, there is nothing left,
Nothing.
And that was it. So I'm like, okay, let's give it all for a year or so.
Right.
And if, I will see how it goes. If I find a fantastic role, not in the hospitality, I'm open to it, but I'm working really, really hard on building the business.
That's right. And not going back. Right. It's like you try.
Hopefully.
That's the it's very similar. That's the focus is like, I had a couple people, kind of reach out. Hey, do you want to go back? And I'm like, no, I am going to focus in and build this thing up and try my best not to go back. I'm going to go back into that world, but we're going to go back and fix some of the things in retail around training and development, because as you well know, the training that a lot of retail leaders get is very limited, right? You had a great post about it around, we can't trust the organizations or allow the organizations to think that they're giving us everything that we need. And it's a fallacy. And so that's what we're focusing on. It's not just the individual, but going back into some of the retail brands and kind of calling their baby ugly. I'm saying, I'm sorry, but the baby, I know it's your baby, but it's not working. It's not working at all. So
exactly. It's the same story in the hotel industry, Yeah. And it was once, like a few months ago, I had a conversation with our talent VP. Because they wanted me to go back and look after Asia, Middle East, part of Africa, and like 45 countries. The talent management on my own. And I looked at her, I'm like, this is wrong with the industry. You want one person for 45, I'm like, what am I gonna do here?
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me, like, you can hire the best talent manager person, but for 45 countries for one person. And then she said, oh, no, you will have 2 staff. And I looked at her, I'm like, okay, I'm like, we're not having this conversation.
Two staffs for, okay, so that's a total of 3 of you. And then you have 45. I mean, I just think about countries, right? So I had territories here in the States, and each territory was different. And then each store within that territory was different. So you start to think about, how are you going to scale appropriately, and then adjust for all of those nuances, right? And then just for you from a 45 countries standpoint, all the cultural differences, that you have to deal with. And you're like, yeah, okay, just me? Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I told them, I'm like, guys, I'm glad, but at the same time, I'm trying to stay away from the whole. It was so funny because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I have
Mhm.
expertise in hospital. I mean, all I know is hospitality. And my friends, they were like, why don't you approach smaller hotel companies? Because the big ones, they have their system, they run it, we run it like a machine. There is no
Right.
chance.
Right.
So why don't you approach small companies that they don't have the resources, the system, the structure? You could have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did reach out very hesitantly. I did reach out to few. But you know what? They did not disappoint in the wrong way because they said, oh, no, we don't need it. I'm like, there you are.
Ah, nice.
So I'm staying away. I'm like, I don't want to have anything to do with you guys.
Yeah. So that's funny. So what if they would have said, hey, we need somebody like you? What would you have done then?
If it's a small, so my problem with, for example, with my company, I love my job, I love my company. We are just too big. It's 300,000 employees in 110 countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we run talent and HR and all that, but there is no, I always felt I don't have a contribution, I don't have I don't put my stamp on anything because it's just a machine. I mean, it's too big to make any difference in anybody's life. Now, if one of these small hotel companies brought me in, Sylvia, come here, implement new ways of doing talent, implement new ways of, doing things that actually has an impact on the individuals.
Right.
And I know it is scalable, not perfect, but something different. I would be up for it. So it's for me, can I make a difference rather than just running the machine?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So you do something that I used to do, and since I relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, I haven't been able to do yet. So you do CrossFit. I think I saw you do some. How are you enjoying that?
So we are going to Kilimanjaro.
I know. I was going to talk about that one too. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
So now it's 29 days or something. Yes, I think. And so I work together with the local guys. So we are partnering with this leadership boot camp, right? It's a 9-day trip, 9 day of working on leaders, building resilience, grit, and self-awareness.
Yeah.
And obviously, we need to be the fittest one because altitude is gonna kick my ass again. Yeah. And I need to stay on top of things and managing those who are, under our care. And the local guy, he runs he's a police guy. He's from Dubai Police. And he's the fitness guy from the partnership. So he's the one who trains us because part of the program that you get 6 weeks training before we go. So we prepare you physically and mentally.
Good.
And I'm with them because, I just need to be fit. And yesterday he was so bad because we had to do the plank like for a long time.
Yeah.
And I kind of cheated, and he looks at me, and we are together, right, with the participant. And he looks at me and he says, if you drop your hip, I'm gonna kick your stomach. I don't care you are a boy or a girl. And I looked at him, I'm like, Abdul, you can't say that to me.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But yeah, he would obviously wouldn't do it. Oh my God. So yeah, we are doing that. He makes me do that. Otherwise, I would not do that.
Yeah. Well, you look good. I think you did one post. You were climbing a rope.
Yeah.
I was like, go ahead, Sylvia. Go ahead.
It's fine. I mean, it's needed. It's necessary. Otherwise, I would be like,
Yeah, it's they initially I didn't like it, right? When I started doing it, I was just like, this is just too much. You guys are doing all this stuff, and then I think I just had to find the right gym, and I did, or box as they call them over here in the States. And I think the biggest thing was that when I found the right gym, he was like, this is all about functional fitness. And I was like, okay, I never thought about it in that way. Because in the course, the older you get, I'm of a certain age, right? You have to, the functional fitness is not just about like fit. It's like just being able to bend down and lift up boxes, right? Being able to stretch to get a light, just like things that you don't necessarily think about when you're younger because it just happens, right? When you start to get a certain age, you're like, oh,
Yep.
you're like, oh, hold on for a second. And so it was just, that's what drew me to it. But then I'm a competitive person, and then the competitive nature, and being able to, create like PRs, and then challenge yourself against those PRs is like, okay, and then, making it like, dude, I suck. Like, oh my gosh. So I love the whole mentality of it. So that's awesome. What made you decide to do the 9-day leadership for Kilimanjaro? Because that's intense.
Yes. So we went to Everest Base Camp last year.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with Everest. One day I want to summit. But my father, first time in my life, he said to me, I ban you doing something. And he said, please don't summit Everest. The mountain is going to kill you. You are a tiny 55 kg woman, like just be realistic. So maybe that's just going to stay my dream forever. Yeah. But so we went to Everest, and I love that kind of environment, and it really challenges you. And I've been in leadership development for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And I thought with Abdul, I'm like, why don't we put together what we have? Because everybody's fed up with these leadership development program. I mean, we can do both, like there's so many options, right? But what is really there in terms of leadership development that teaches you to overcome the physical pain, to overcome challenges? Yeah. Because up there is nothing to do with your physical ability in terms of, it's a long walk, even if you go to Everest, even if you go to Kilimanjaro, it's just a long walk. But what makes it very difficult is the altitude. And I realized that in Everest, because once you get above 3,000, you get altitude sickness, no matter what. Everybody's going to get it. So you need to tackle headache, like banging headache for days. Right. I had, for 4 days, my nose was bleeding. Then insomnia kicks in because you can't sleep at altitude. Then your appetite disappears. So you learn to force feed yourself. Wow. So everything happens. Your physiological things, it's just so difficult because and you are sick. But at the same time, you have your goal to get to somewhere. You cannot just go and, okay, I'm not going. Right. I give up, right at the start, almost at the start, when you start to have your symptoms. And I thought, I'm like, what teaches somebody the better than this for grit, for resilience? And in the meantime, we can teach leaders, which I always felt that is missing from any kind of leadership development program, is the self-awareness. So during that 100%. Program, what I do is the strength assessment and that personality profile, the big 5. So understanding that, they can tap into their strengths and understand that then their personality and get through that pain. So proving themselves that, life gets difficult, work gets difficult, you will be told no, but you're going to have to find a way to reach that goal, to get to where you want to. So you don't stop at the first hurdle. And I think that the still, it makes, that does the job.
Oh, gosh. Man, I'm like, I want to go.
It does. I'm looking for people for the next one. So if you can help me in the States, we'll be going in October, 16th to the 24th. So come with us. Oh gosh.
I love it. I love it because when I'm thinking about it, well, I was in the military, but even military training and everything that we do, except for like, if you go for like a Navy SEAL type of deal, which I wasn't, like the whole idea is to strip away a lot of kind of like who you think you are, right? And who you think you are also to other people. And it just strips you away to like your bare essence. And then you really have to like, from a self-awareness standpoint, you really have to do some self-discovery of like, am I gonna give up? Am I a quitter? Am I a finisher? I think early in my leadership career, I realized that I wasn't a finisher. When I was like 25, 26, I would start a whole bunch of stuff and I wouldn't finish it, because for me the zeal was the starting, right? New market here, new opportunity here. It's like, okay, I get the buzz out of that. But then I wasn't finishing, and I realized that I was leaving so much really of myself on the table, because there was something for me to learn by finishing and not just the starting aspect, and so it's just so for me, when I think about what these guys and gals are going to be going through, they're literally going to be stripped away of just like everything, just down to their like really who they are. That's awesome. It's scary though too, right? I'm even as I talk about it, I'm like, I'm scared. I would be scared because I would, you don't know how you're going to respond and how you're going to react, right?
Oh no, and you know what, Steve, is so difficult to convince these leaders to participate, and that for this reason, they are so scared to look into the mirror. God, their ego. I mean, here, maybe you don't know this region, Arabs and Asia. I mean, the ego is running high.
Yeah.
And tell an Arab man, or these people, they love and they thrive on their titles. They don't care about competence. It's all about title. And then they have the title, but then you start looking at the competence, they shut down. They don't even let you go there. Like, oh no, I don't need development, I don't need anything.
Yes.
And that's why it's so difficult to even convince them that it does, because they know that they will be challenged, and maybe they will have to say, because sometimes when altitude sickness gets really, really bad, then you need to go down, like there is no other choice, right? And it's it's there, it's an option. And would they want to face that?
No.
Really?
No, it's funny. I go back to when I was in the Air Force. I was a crew chief for these they call KC-135s, and so they are what we call, you've probably seen pictures of them. They're the big planes that refuel like the fighter jets, like while in air, and with the big boom and everything. And so we had to go through survival training, and for like 2 weeks we were like out in the woods. So just in case our plane went down, we had to figure out how to survive. And I can't remember her name, but she was one of the most demure, like kind of like, low key, like females, just like, I don't, oh my gosh, this is just too much. 4 days later, something just clicked inside of her. And we had a rabbit that they gave us 2 rabbits to just like befriend the entire time. Right. Little did we know they were going to end up being our dinner. And I remember, and something just clicked inside of her, because she was like, I'm hungry. And she grabbed the rabbit and strung it up and popped it in the head. I was like, it was like seeing somebody just like this whole out of body experience. Like, and then I remember asking her, I was like, what happened? She's like, you know what? I just got to this point where I was just like, I need to survive. I have to figure out a way to get past my fear of one, dying, and then 2, like, I need to eat, and we need to win, and we need to move past this. So it was just like I always talk about this story, but it was just so interesting to see her like just shift into this like like almost like a Hulk. She was, this is just too much. I'm not gonna be able to do it. She was crying every night. And I'm not trying to pick on her, but it's just like the story. She was just crying every night. And we're like, trying to encourage her. Day 4 or 5, man, she turned into somebody completely different. So I'm thinking that, the leaders, hopefully, that, as they kind of go through this with you, that that's something that's gonna happen for them as well.
And this is it, you know, up there is really just going back to the very basics, you know, you don't have shower for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
These small little things, it really gets to you, you know, it's cold. It's you don't even change, you fully dressed, get into your sleeping. I mean, you are a military guy, I don't need to tell you, fully dressed, going into your sleeping bag. In the morning, you get up and you keep going. Like you just roll up your sleeping bag and you go again. And these are pampered people here in Dubai. I mean, we have a very, you know, popular life. And to go from sometimes, even it was really interesting, going from, oh, this is not what I expected. The tents are super small because here we have these, you know, 10 people tents, and they sit outside in the desert camping, lights and music. And when we say them that, go tell them that there is 10, they had that in the head. And going from those things to 5 or 6, 7 days, like, you know what, I don't even want to brush my teeth. Like, I don't care anymore. Let's go. Like, nobody cares, you know?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is, right? I know. I think I can see just the are you doing something like a like a before and after type of deal with, like, not so much a survey, but like maybe having them have a, you know, videotape themselves beforehand and then something afterwards?
But didn't do it in the first one. We want to do it with these guys. Because next one who I was talking, they were like, oh, can we have some, you know, reference kind of like feedback from others? And the first group, they were kind of senior people and they didn't even want others to know that they came with us. So it was really tricky, you know? We work with companies and they always make us sign NDA. So you can't even talk about that I'm working with this company. So it's so difficult. But what we are going to do, we got a few people, hopefully they will, and this time we will have 4 teenagers with us.
Oh, wow.
5, because Abdul wants to do this, open this up for teenagers. But the group was so small, 5, I'm like, let's chuck them together. I'm like, what can happen? Nothing can happen, right? So I think it will be also very interesting to see how the teenagers are going to, they are between 15 and 17.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So this trip will be a little bit different because the mother, one of the boys' mother, she's not coming. And the other 2 kids, the mom and the father on that side, they are coming. So they are leaders. They were part of the program that had ended up in there. And one of the boys' mom is not coming. And she came to the gym last week when we had the briefing. And she looked at it and she goes like, look after my son. I'm like, yes, mom. I'm like, now I'm a mother too. So
I know, right?
I'm like, now I have different responsibilities because obviously kids come first, right?
I am so why am I so jealous of these kids now? I'm like, I'm thinking about 17-year-old. I enlisted when I was 17, on 18, but I'm like, why am I so jealous of these kids? Like, that is going to be life changing for them. That is gonna, I wouldn't, oh my gosh, you should do like some type of documentary. Like you should like track these kids from like, you know, from before to this experience to, oh my gosh, that's gonna be amazing.
I think we will do some videos and it's gonna be amazing.
Oh gosh. You talk a lot about and you mentioned it earlier too, self-awareness, and every time I talk to somebody who I respect, I always want to get their perspective on self-awareness, because I'm in the process of writing a book called The Approachable Retail Leader, and part of what I've learned over my career when I see some of the best retail leaders have is their approachability, their level of approachability, to be able to solve problems quicker, retain talent, and also save time, but also kind of help increase the capacity. And so I've been sitting on this book for like really probably about 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
Now the timing is everything. And one of the first things I created a framework. It's called SMILE, self-awareness, mindful listening, inspire trust, lead by example, and empathy. And the self-awareness piece for me has always been more about kind of the why. We can understand, kind of the output of the self-awareness, but I always think about it from the why. Like, why do we do what we do? Why do we make the decisions that we make? And if you have a better understanding of, why you do that, then self-awareness becomes a lot easier. I had this one, Caitlin, she was a district team leader for me. And I would always say to her, it's like, you are the most self-aware person that I know, like as a leader. And she has gone on to do some really big things. And she always references back to me. She'll like shoot me back an email or a message. And she's like, I just had a tough day, but I just remember what you said about me being self-aware, because she knew how to carry herself, but she knew how she would respond in various situations. And so I just wanted to get your perspective and your thoughts around, you work with tons of leaders, and just wanted to get your ideas around self-awareness.
So self-awareness is a tricky one, right? Because it has so many different aspects to it.
Agreed.
I like to work with the strength and the personality, because that really gives you everything. When you have your personality profile done, I only do personality with senior leaders, because you really need to be mature to accept that info, to receive this information,
Yes.
because that personality assessment will tell you who the hell you are. And like it, dislike it, agree, disagree, this is what it is. So that I only do that. But the strength is really what talent you bring. And I love that you said, I like to start things when I was, younger. And that's a very activator kind of person who would say that strength is activator is all about, let's get going, let's talking more doing, It's not necessarily focusing, and you said it's not necessarily focusing on the finishing. And I don't want activators necessarily to finish things. What I want as a leader, for example, that, let's say I'm an activator, but now I need to assemble a team around me who will run with my idea and execute it.
Exactly.
And that's it. So self-awareness for me is these two, to enable them to either to build teams, to lead people, and understand how they lead and how they, because that personality assessment will really say or say a lot about the way they lead. So I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm a creative person, I'm more conservative, I am very high, or I'm very sensitive to negative emotions. So, for example, people or leaders with high on neuroticism, I don't prefer them to be in leadership positions. However, they end up in leadership positions. What do we do with you now? And explaining it to them that, look, if I give you a feedback that you won't like, that's going to end up in a fight, You're going to fight against it. But as a leader, you need to overcome that. And it's not that I'm changing your personality traits, because we can't do it. But what are the things that we can put in place so you receive feedback maybe in a way that you can tolerate it? And it doesn't create an emotional reaction or response, because then you just shut down the moment your emotions are taking over. And really understanding. And once leaders understand this about themselves, it's fascinating. And what I do with leaders, not just in that, in different workshops as well, that I use the same assessment, because I believe, and you know how many times I fought with my talent VP about this. I never really understood how we can develop leaders without their team's input. I'm like, why are we sending these people to somebody and then allow them back to the people who they are leading, and they don't, there is no connections. It's a complete disconnect. So with these leaders, even with the one-day leadership workshop, I send out the survey to their direct team. So I
Yeah.
receive all the information. Sometimes I filter it because sometimes people are very nasty and that's not necessary.
Right.
And so I received the question or the answers to 2 questions. What is it that I'm doing really, really well?
Right.
And what is it that you would like me to do better for me to be a better leader to you?
Right. Right.
And then I present that information. And sometimes the team and the leaders are working together, depending on the situation. But you cannot develop leaders. And that also is one piece of the puzzle in the self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
leaders go around, and I always tell them, they go around, oh, I'm a great leader. I'm like, you can't claim that. It's your team's
The
job to
team,
tell you.
100%. 100%. How can, yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm a great cook. Oh my gosh, I make the best pasta. And, you know, someone else tastes your pasta. It's like, dude, no, it just sucks. And you're like, but what are you talking about? My pasta's the best. Like, no. And there's 2 things you just said about, you know, bringing the team into it. You know, we would often, you know, as, you know, higher level leaders, you know, within retail, they send us to, we'll get like a weekend, like, Harvard to learn certain things, and, Cornell University, all these different things. And a lot of my peers, they would come back and they just like sit on the information, and they would just be like, okay, well, that was great for me. And my mindset was like, no, dude, this stuff is for your team. This stuff is for your team. So I developed this kind of this almost like a program, if you will, of like, anytime, you know, I went somewhere, I was, you know, taking notes, but I always come back and I taught my team exactly what I learned. Because the other issue that we have with a lot of leaders is that when they get self-development or they get leadership development, now they're at a different, you know, kind of perspective and level. But what does that look like for their team? We're launching a learning community, and part of what we do is that we have companies send their team in for 5 weeks of training, but then they have ongoing coaching. But what I implemented was that we're going to be coaching their leader too, right?
Mhm.
So it's not just about them, it's also about their leader, because as they learn and grow, now they're coming back with all this new information, and the leader's like, dude, well, what is Steve teaching you guys? Like, what is he, you know, oh, I'm getting inundated with all this self-awareness now. All of you are so self-aware, and I don't know how to embrace that. I don't know how to deal with that. And so how do you bring both of them together at the same time to get it? Because if not, there's such a disconnect with someone's gaining and the other person is just kind of staying where they are. And that just creates this deficit and this kind of, you know, imbalance. And so I just love what you just said. I love that, you know.
Yeah, and this is where we waste money on leadership training.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
I learned something, okay, but how can I use that, you know? And with the strengths assessment, for example, I always teach the leaders, like, it's not enough for me to know my strengths. Now I need to learn to communicate to my boss, so my boss knows how to manage me based on my strengths.
Yeah.
And now I need to communicate to my team, and I also need to know my team's strengths so I can manage them for higher performance.
100%. 100%. 100%. Like, I always think about it this way too. When I was thinking about the ideal of approachability, I realized very quickly was that I'm at different levels. If we think about it from 5 levels of leadership with John Maxwell, you're at different levels with different people all the time. And as a leader, the tendency is for you to just think that you're, you know, with Sylvia, I'm actually at level 3, right? And, production level. And it's like, no, that's great. But with Tom just met me. Tom has no clue who I am. So Tom is just thinking of me as a positional leader. And so I think leaders, from a self-awareness standpoint, is having that adaptability to understand where you are with different people and being able to communicate and adapt, you know, quickly on the fly and seamlessly, right? But I think there's this idea that it's a positional leader, that we just lead with everybody the same way. No, if we really want to get the best out of the situation and each other, we have to learn how to adapt. And that just takes work. And a lot of leaders don't want to do that.
Nobody wants, everything is like, and you know what, I think in organizations, we teach that cookie cutter kind of approach, because then you go down, oh, you need to treat everybody fairly, but then they misunderstand the word fairly.
Yeah,
And
yes.
then equity and equality, and oh my God, and then you spend a day to separate these three and what they look like and what it means and all that kind of thing. Everybody is just confused. So it's really going back, I'm just going through Marcus Buckingham's First Break All the Rules book, my favorite book ever. And it really says everything. We don't need to overcomplicate sometimes management and leadership, is Sylvia is Sylvia. Sylvia has her very special talent, personality, her whatever she brings, her problems, her external life, her whatever, you cannot treat Sylvia same as you would treat Steve.
Yeah.
What you need to do is making sure that the outcome is the same.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it, Yeah. And that's it. There is nothing more. And this is a lot of work. And I taught this to my staff because I would ask questions. So if I'm a single mom and there's nobody single mother on the team, right? And I need to pick up my kids and I ask, can I finish every day at 4 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever, because I need to. And all the managers would say, no, you can't, because then I need to give it to the others as well. And I was pulling out my hair.
Oh,
I'm like, they don't need this from you. Why would you? That's not the equal outcome, because
yes.
And once they understood, it was like, oh, okay, I see. But it was just such a hard work not to, everybody treated and painted with the same brush. I'm like, no.
Yes. I think it's linear. It's like I love the outcome piece, right? And I would teach my team this too when they were dealing with their team. So you want to get A to B, right? B is the outcome, but some people can go directly from A to B, right? They get it, but some are like A1, A2, A3, maybe A4, and then you know what? Guess what? Sometimes they go back to A3 because they're comfortable at A3, and then they realize like, okay, I can't sit here. And then they go to A4, then they go to B, right? And so, but being able to identify where people are, within that, within that continuum, if you will, it's so important. And then they feel heard, right? They feel listened to, like that single mom. If they were to just have a different conversation with her, man, she would be like, she'd probably like retire there.
Yeah, and it's so easy, like pay attention. And that's why I like strengths-based talent development, for example, what I do, because it's really paying attention to you from the development perspective. But when I was a manager, when I was leading the teams, and I was very, very clear. I always treated everybody differently. For me, it's the outcome. And I said that to my staff millions of times because they would come, obviously, oh, why she can't do this, why he can, whatever. And I said, because I decided. Sometimes that was the answer, but I explained it to them millions of times. You are not the same. You know more. So I need to spend time with you on certain trainings than that person. Does it make sense? Yes, it makes sense. I'm like, fantastic. So I started to, but it's a long, long conversation. And eventually they get it, but they need to receive this kind of communication and through your actions as well, that you know what, it can work. It doesn't mean that we all need to be sent for the same amount of training, the same, whatever that is, because it just doesn't work. You send me for the same training as that person when I'm a master of my craft, whatever. Like, how would it make sense, And they understand it. And sometimes I think leaders are not comfortable to say to their staff, it's because I decided. Because that's the right thing to do, and I really don't care. I'm not hurting anybody, and I really don't care what you think about it. For me, that single mother can go every day at 4 o'clock, and that's it. I don't want to explain it to anybody. She's working the same amount, same number of hours. She's earning the same amount of money. She's doing the same amount of job in terms of productivity. What is your problem?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I get into used to get into these conversations where some of the leaders would kind of tap dance around, you know, just certain outcomes. I'm like, no, you just need to make a stand. There's a time and place for situational and empathetic leadership, right? There's a time and place, but sometimes it's command and control. It just has to be, you have to be able to take control of the situation and be okay with that. And the other person may not like it, but at the end of the day, there has to be a stopping point. You just can't allow certain things to kind of continue on. You know what? Let's just do this right now. Nip
Mhm.
it in the bud. Well, what about no? This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna go. Because we have been chasing our tails around this for too long. And honestly, I've been giving you the freedom to try to make a decision, right? To try to get there. And okay, now time's up. Like you see my watch, the alarm just went off, and it's time for us. We got to make a decision. And so yeah, you just have to learn people have to learn how to adapt and be able to do that. Oh my gosh, I knew I was gonna love talking to you. I knew there are very few, and my girlfriend knows this, and because I was sending her your stuff, and she was just like, oh my God, this is like talking to you. She's like, this is like you when you get on your leadership, like just like I was like, I know, right? There's very few people that you've seen a lot. I've seen a lot, but I love your content, I love your perspective, and I'm gonna let you get back to the rest of your
Thank
evening.
you.
But I don't want this to be the last time we chat and have a conversation. I'm gonna probably just extend the invitation. I would love to interview you for the book, and get some of your perspective and get some of
Absolutely.
your thoughts as well too. So I always want to do this.
I lost your voice. I can't hear you.
There we go.
Yes. Oh,
So
no. Yeah.
no?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I got this little speaker thing right here,
Oh, okay.
and it kind of comes in and off. But I love talking to people. I love taking pictures of people who I feel like are really dope, because I want to let the world know about you, too, on LinkedIn. So
Thank
I know you're
you.
like, my hair's not good. I saw you.
No. You
You're
know
like,
what? I just got home not long ago. It was so funny today. I ended up in Sheikh Mohammed's Prime Minister's office
oh
about
wow.
this program. And it
Yeah.
was a last minute, like, you need to be here. And I just ran in the morning. And at 11, I had another meeting in the other side of town. I'm like, this is crazy. And I was like, am I going to make it home by 3 p.m.? So
Yeah.
it was, but
You
hey.
said shake. And so when I was because I'm, like I said, I'm a little old, and I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And so we were stationed in Riyadh,
Mm.
and we had the King Khalid's International Airport. So we pretty much, as the United States and I guess UN, whoever else, like we pretty much, they allowed us. Now we took over, but they allowed us to work out of that airport. And I remember as a young kid from New York, not really understanding like wealth, right? In the States, we think cars and apartments and stuff is like wealth. And I remember walking through that airport, and all the floors were marble, the pillars were marble, the gold inlays were like 21 karat gold. It's just everything, the opulence. And I was like,
I know.
I was like,
I know.
oh my God. And I remember this vividly. Like I said, I was 18. No, I think it was 19 at the time. 19, I was 20. But my entire perspective on like wealth and how we live here in the States and how we think we're like, oh yeah, I'm like, not so
Yeah.
much.
You know what? I've been living here for 12 years, and I have seen, and I traveled in the GCC in Saudi as well, lots, and being part of, once I was working in Sheikh Mohammed's, one of his daughter's wedding So I have seen that, but sometimes I'm like, wow, what just happened here?
Yeah, exactly. Like what? Like did that just happen? Did that just drive past me, or did I just see that? Yeah, you're like, oh my goodness, oh gosh.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Give me your. You already got a great smile, but go ahead and give me a smile.
There you are.
There we go. All right, I took a couple of them. Oh my gosh. Like I
Thank
said,
you so much,
oh,
Steve.
thank you for your time, and like I said, I just love to talk to people who like get leadership, and I do, and I don't say this lightly. I do respect you and appreciate you, and I would love to be able to one day be a part of that. I don't know about that. I don't know about walking up the whole summit, but we got to figure maybe just like a smaller mountain or something like that.
We do Kilimanjaro together. Don't worry. Abdul and I will take you up.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm already panting, and I have oxygen. I'm
We
already.
we get used to everything. You remember, we are very resilient and
That's very
resourceful.
true. That's very true. All right. Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day.
You too. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.